Welcome to Winging It. We are looking at deck building in Arkham Horror the card game today. These are two decks that I'm building for a new campaign I'm starting. This is going to be the Circle Undone with Zoey and Daisy, who is my favorite pair of investigators. I have a little headcanon with them. I've been playing every single campaign with them. My headcanon is that I take Zoey as being straight. I know that it's heavily implied that she's schizophrenic and she hears voices, or there's demons talking to her, but in my headcanon, she really is like a servant of God going out and killing things, and that Daisy is waking up to the realities of the mythos. And she's skeptical, but Zoey brings her along, and these the two strong women go through and take on these campaigns. So I love kind of the thematic idea of that. That's a movie I would watch. So this is going to be my first hard campaign that I've videoed. I've started playing hard recently. I've done a few campaigns. I've only won one, which was Return to Carcosa, but I've tried TCU twice, and I've done really well, except for the very last scenario. And I think it's because the Elder Thing token is really, really rough in the last scenario. And I've always rejected my fate. This time I'm going to accept my fate. And hopefully not having that Elder Thing in the last scenario will help me get through this. So I don't know. These are really strong investigators for me. I played both of them a lot. So we're obviously Zoey's gonna be our enemy management. Daisy's gonna be our Clover. Although they'll try to help out a little bit in each other's roles. The real weakness between Zoey and Daisy as a group is that they don't have high evade, and usually that's okay because Zoey can just murder things. But there's definitely times in TCU, especially when you get about midway through the campaign, where you want to have some evasion. So that is a problem that we're going to have to solve. Fortunately, Daring will help out a little bit with that, and Daisy having Encyclopedia also helps with that. So again, we are playing on hard, and this is this build, as we look at it, is a little bit different for how I would normally play Zoey, because it's very, very skill-based. I think I've been playing too much Silas recently, and it's just got me in the mode of skills. Also, because I just did the core campaign recently, that I made that intro video, I remembered how much I really enjoy the cantrips, or the neutral skills that replace themselves. So I really like the idea of running a stripped down deck with very few assets that I can find fast because I've got a lot of draw. And of course, Daisy can help Zoey find the cards that she needs. So the other notable thing about this is I'm taking Hallowed Mirror, which we'll get to in a second, but it does compete for slots with Zoey's Cross. And so I am going to have to take Relic Hunter fairly early on, which is debatable to me whether or not that's a good play. Because I go back and forth on Hallowed Mirror and Zoey. It's a really strong card. In two-handed, it can be tough to find the actions to actually, play healing. But at the same point, since we are going to be going with tablets, which causes Azathoth to attack in the last scenario, I do want to have some ways to be able to heal back up when we take damage. So that's kind of my thinking. So primarily I'm going to think Zoey is going to be about murder, about doing potentially some healing with the Hallowed Mirror, and then cluing, when she can. So let's take, I'll go over her very briefly. This is my miniature. I couldn't get anything that looks exactly like the pose. So, but she has the nice little meat cleaver here, which it's a nice thematic weapon, even if it's not one that a lot of people take with Zoey, although I am taking it. Zoey the chef. Here is her stat card. She's 4 willpower, which is one of the things I really like about her, is her 4 willpower. It just makes her very resilient to things, and especially it's good in TCU. She's not going to be doing much in the way of using her intellect for clues, nor her agility. Both those are 2 stats, and then she's got her 4 fight stat, which obviously is kind of her main stat. She likes to murder things. Every time she engages, she gets a resource, so that's good. And her Elder Sign effect is not one of the great ones, although I mean, it's better than some, because if she's doing an attack, which she normally does, it would allow her to do +1 damage. Often that's kind of irrelevant, but it's at least better than the ones that just let you succeed by a lot. So, all right, so we'll look at her. This is her signature asset, one of the best signature assets in the game. It's 1 cost, put it down, and then when you engage an enemy, you can spend 1 resource, which is what you would get for engaging with an enemy, and just do a damage to that enemy. Note that this doesn't ever work on massive enemies, but direct damage is good, and it makes her really good at killing odd health enemies. So this is something we'll definitely go for hard in the secret name. Her weakness is it's hit or miss. It can be very, very brutal though. You just have to discard until you find an enemy, then you spawn that enemy at the farthest location, and she may take a trauma. And the trauma isn't such a big deal, honestly, if she doesn't do it, but this can make enemies like that generate doom or that you need to kill spawn in really difficult places. So it can, mess you up. Alright, so she is going to take the Enchanted Blade, because we are taboo. This is kind of the replacement everybody takes for a machete, but actually it's very strong, especially in TCU, where sometimes you need to kill things with relics in order to keep them from coming back, the spirits and stuff. So it has 3 charges, but you get +2 to fight, which again on hard you want to be as high up as you can be. So giving her that extra boost is really good. And then if something's not critical, you can just go. You can not use the charge, or this can still be useful even when you're not, even when you've exhausted all the charges off it. But the plan will be to upgrade this to the upgraded version, so that which will allow her to heal horror and get some card draw. So that's good. The Meat Cleaver. Now, this is thematic in her. A lot of people don't like spending her off-class slots on the Meat Cleaver, but I really do like it. Besides it being thematic, it's a weapon without charges. You can just use it forever, and it lets her manage her horror, because you can, I generally don't try to run her low enough to get the +2 on it, but usually you don't need it too much. But just being able to okay, I'm just going to take it slow and not take the horror and just heal horror with this, can be a great offhanded weapon, or it can be just one that is, very reliable, and you can just take horror and, do the +2 damage. It also adds a little bit of some interesting decisions. A lot of times when you're taking this, you're also running Peter, which just makes this, fairly non-interesting weapon. But when you're running at somebody like Zoey, who has to manage her horror, then obviously the decisions become a lot, you have to make some decisions about when you're going to use it, when you're not, and, that kind of thing. It will synergize well when I get the upgraded Enchanted Blade, though. So Beat Cop's fairly straightforward. Gets to that +1 fight, which he likes. We'll definitely be upgrading to the higher level Beat Cops. Either that, or I'm sort of considering maybe getting Brother Xavier instead of the upgraded Beat Cop. That might be a crazy idea. I'll think about that as I go and see where we're at, just because having a high willpower would be very good in TCU. And I'm not really expecting Daisy to be able to be the high will. I mean, she has her 3, but it's a lot of work to get it up higher than that. Zoe starting at a 4, maybe Brother Xavier's the way to go. But, or maybe I'll get Charisma and run both. I'm just not sure. But Beat Cop is obviously very strong, and it's something I want to run in her. Okay, now the controversial one is the Hallowed Mirror, which takes up an accessory slot, competes with her cross. I will eventually want to get, or as quickly as I can, want to get Relic Hunter so I can run them both. But when you put this out, then you're gonna take one of these and shuffle 2 more into your deck, and this is Soothing Melody, and it heals 2 damage or 2 horror, any combination. From investigators or allies in your slot. It has really good synergy with Beat Cop 2. Makes me think I probably will go ahead and at least take Beat Cop 2. And it lets you draw a card. So this just gives her some healing. It's really good for Daisy with her 5 fight, or 5 health. And of course, it might be good when you're taking attacks from Azeroth at the end. So. Okay, we have handcuffs. Handcuffs are just good for locking down witches. In the first scenario, it's good for locking down cultists. In the second scenario, it's good for allowing Zoe a way to evade later on when we need to evade later in the campaign. So I'll probably keep this around till about the late campaign and then replace it with like a big weapon or something. So handcuffs are good. Let me handle this. I really only have this in for the first scenario. Generally, Taunt will let me do what I want to do with this card. But because in the first scenario, Zoey and Daisy end up split and not able to be in the same location, this will let Zoey pull enemies off of Daisy being across the map, which will just let Daisy free to suck up clues and get him as fast as she can. So, and of course, also deal with treacheries. Getting that +2, like say willpower boost on a willpower check, can make her, that puts her at a 6, which is going to be very, very, very strong if she needs to. So that's just a good card. Again, I'm not planning to keep it in forever. It's one of the ones I will replace, but it's very good for the first scenario. So I have one taunt. The plan will be to put this, at least in some point, on stick to the plan. Just gives Zoey extra actions. She likes to be engaged. It's like what she likes to do. So yeah, Taunt's always a good card. Dodge, another target for stick to the plan. I definitely want to put this, my plan right now is to put this on stick to the plan for the last scenario, so that when Azathoth, attacks because you draw the wrong token, or there's a peril that makes him attack, that you can do this to avoid the attack. So Dodge is just a good card. And then there will probably be, I've had worse to also kind of do the same kind of thing. All right, so we have 2 more off-class slots. That will be 2 Luckies, because Lucky is just an awesome card. It will allow times to undercommit to tests, which is really good when you're playing on hard. Of course, it's really good anyway, but yeah. And then Evidence. This is another card that I haven't used in a long time, and I used it when I did the Core Box campaign for this channel, and I realized it's a really good card, and I don't know why I haven't been running it. So she could also commit it, if she needed to, probably to Daisy's test, but, it's a testless way of getting clues when she kills stuff, which is things she's like to be doing. Nah, it's just a good card, a good way to get clues. So, Scene of the Crime, pretty standard clue tech now these days. If you're going to be engaged with enemies, this is a good way to... this is a good way to get clues. Things that Guardians like to do. Pay 2, get 2 clues, or maybe get 1 clue. Anything that allows Zoey to get clues without having to test her intellect, that's great. Take the Initiative, just always a good card for anybody who can take it. It's always worth 3 in the Mythos phase, and if she has to evade something at the beginning, or there's a big treachery she needs to get rid of, her first action she can go and take that, and Take the Initiative is good. So, new wonderful card that just came out. The kind of card that makes me want to buy 2 of the packs so that I can have multiple copies of this for various campaigns is Daring. So it gives you 3 to either a fight or an evade test. And so, which normally would be fight or agility, but in a Mystic it could be also your willpower. The enemy gains Retaliate and Alert, but no matter what, when you're done, you draw a card. So it gives her card draw and makes her smash tests. Really good. Finally, my last off-class slot here is going to be Stunning Blow. This is just good. I almost always play this when I have it. Since Zoey is not good at evading, and sometimes you just need things to be exhausted, this is a good way for her to do an exhaust. Plus, great flavor text. Thud. Okay. Vicious Blow. Super standard for Guardians, right? She's got 2 of these. Lets her get some action compression, do extra damage. Just for doing what she normally does. That's great. Overpower, another card that I think I stopped taking for a long time because it's so he's already fighting. Why does she need extra fight? But it thins out her deck, lets her get to her resources, and makes sure that she's really passing those tests. Plus, it has Silas on it, and I love Silas. And then Guts. Guts is good. You'll notice I didn't take Steadfast, and because I was taking Steadfast instead of Guts for the longest time. Maybe I'll still do that, but I'm valuing the card draw a little bit more, and I definitely want Zoey to be able to beat willpower tests because she's got the high willpower. There's a lot of willpower tests going on, and so having these Guts are good. I may upgrade either this or Overpower into Physical Training 2, which, because she has lots of resources, that's a good card for her to be able to spend to boost her fight or willpower. So I will probably upgrade those into Physical Training 2. I just am not sure what combination of those I will do. So for her weakness, she got Narcolepsy. So I've never played with this. It doesn't seem to me like it's going to be that big a deal. It's going to cause a little bit of, action hit for Daisy, but usually they'll be playing close together, I think, and not split up. So I don't anticipate this being a huge issue. I say that, and that probably doomed me. Finally, this is a spoiler, so hopefully you know something about this campaign, but because we are accepting our fate, we have to put in the Tower and the Ace of Rods. And the Ace of Rods is not great, but it sometimes can be okay. It is what it is. It's really good in one scenario in this campaign. Obviously, the Tower is just horrible. And it's really bad for a very heavy commit style, but at least Zoey can, at least she can pay for it. She's generally she gets rich without even trying. Has one of the best economies of any Guardian. So, I definitely wanted her to take it rather than Daisy, because Daisy's going to be running Rook. She would hit it every single time, and at least Zoey may not hit it. Although we got so much card draw, it probably will happen. But hopefully it happens by the time she's actually gotten some resources, doing her thing. So anyway, let's take a look at Daisy. And now Daisy, here's her miniature. Got her little book, her tote bag, and I'm using her invocation card, which is pretty. That's kind of a cool picture. So one of the note about her is this, her low health is kind of something that makes her vulnerable. So something that I definitely, got to be thinking about. She has 3 willpower, which is okay. She has mystic access. But it's not something that she can really take advantage of without some work in terms of like casting spells and being a spell casting librarian. So it's more like I use her access for other things. Kind of some utility things. So anyway, she does have the 5 intellect, which just can't be understated, which it can't be overstated how good that is. Both her and Mandy have that, and actually Norman has that. It just lets you get going right away, being useful right away, being able to do things. 2 fight, not a big deal. Kind of like actually would prefer it to be like Mandy with a 1, because she's not going to be using it ever. But it's fine. And then she are 2 agility, which again, I've mentioned how between her and Zoey, that can be a problem that they're both 2 agility. But we have some tools and tricks to deal with that. So her signature asset, and her special ability is that she can use a tome action, an action on a tome once per turn. As a free action. So it gives her free actions if she's got a tome to play. Obviously makes tomes really good in her. She's from the core set, so I think most people know how she works. She's got her tote bag, which a lot of people say, hey, it's a good icon card. But actually, the more tomes that have been put in this game, the more valuable this becomes. And with Mr. Rook being able to pull this card for you, I think it gets a lot higher value that you can build around having it and expecting to have multiple tomes in play. Her weakness is the Necronomicon, which you put 3 horror on it. It takes up a hand slot. So this means you can effectively only have, unless you have her tote bag out, you can only have 1 tome in play, especially since you're going to be pulling this early with Rook. And it makes her Elder Sign become an auto-fail until you clear it. So usually, I guess you don't clear this, although honestly, if you get it early enough in a scenario, it might be worth taking the actions just to get it clear, so that you free up that hand slot, and so that her Elder Sign, she can actually get value out of it. So Old Book of Lore is, kind of her, almost her real signature card. People talk about it. You can exhaust it, but she can use that, as a free action if she's got it out. And she or another investigator location can look through the top 3 cards and then shuffle the remaining cards into the, and then pick one of the 3. So it's a really good card. I find once she's got Rook that once I get Encyclopedia, I actually favor Encyclopedia over it. So I'm probably going to drop one of those once, for Encyclopedia. And then there's Scroll of Prophecies, which I haven't played a lot with, but it does something similar. And it's going to let her, it has an investigator who draws 3 cards and then discards 1. So this probably has a little bit better value in terms of being able to actually get more cards into your hands, as long as there's things you're willing to discard. You can only use it 4 times, but I mean, honestly, 4 times is usually, especially 2-handed, enough to get people pretty set up to where they want to be. I mean, that's, it's 8 cards, so Good one. I probably will drop one of those and one of the old Book of Lore for the 2 encyclopedias, and that will give her, really good set of tomes to use. So we got Mr. Rook. First of all, he's a damage and a horror soak, really good for her. And what's good about Mr. Rook is after you've used his 3 secrets, it's really great to just use him for a soak. You don't mind getting rid of him. It's not like Milan where you have that one health and you just never want to put it on him because you never want to get rid of Milan. He's fine. You're okay to kill him off as soon as you've used his secrets. But anyway, he lets you dig through either 3, 6, or 9 cards. If you can grab one, it's a free trigger, so it doesn't cost an action to do this. But you do have to draw a weakness, which will often give you a tempo hit, and it means that she'll be just pulling her things fairly early on. So you just have to plan around it. Her weaknesses, which is Stubborn Detective and, of course, the Necronomicon. So, you just have to be ready to lose a hand slot when you pull this guy. And you just got to make sure that Zoey's ready to kill the Stubborn Detective. Okay, so Astounding Revelation is going to be my economy card here. I'm running this instead of Crack the Case. I'm running no other economy in her. That may be a bad idea, but anyway, yeah, it's you can take 3 of these because it's mirrored, and when you can either gain 2 resources or place a secret on an asset you control, which would be Mr. Rook, and either Old Book of Lore or Mr. Rook can trigger this. So if it comes up during a search, then you'll get your extra resources. Now, Scroll of Prophecies would not trigger this because it's a draw, not a search. So, Knowledge is Power. This will let her trigger an action on for fast on a tome or spell asset, which basically be either one of these and then Encyclopedia. And you don't have to pay the cost. You don't have to pay the charge. You don't have to pay the action. So you could get a couple uses out of Old Book of Lore or Scroll of Prophecies, or eventually out of Encyclopedia. So, yeah. Being able to use this on Encyclopedia and then do the Encyclopedia, giving a 4 boost, can be very useful, especially when you're trying to do something like Zoey needing to evade or beating a really critical willpower check or something like that. Read the Signs. It's a new card. People probably don't think about this as being a Daisy card, but I mean, you can add your willpower to your skill value, so that means she's investigating in an 8, and then you get 2 clues. That's clue acceleration. It's really good for cost of 2. I think it's worth it. I'm excited to see, how it goes in her. I've been running it in Marie, which is probably who you think of first, with that, especially since, if she has Doom, she can use that as a free action. But I don't know. I still think any something that's going to, go super high and let you get multiple clues, that's clue acceleration. That's just good. So she's got a plan. This is fairly classic seeker tech for being able to fight. I want her to be able to fight. If we're trying to take on a big boss and there's no clues to get, then she needs to be able to do something. I'm only running 1 of, but this is the kind of thing that's a big bomb effect. She can do up to 4 damage with this if she has enough clues. So it's a big bomb effect that maybe we'll run once. I mean, with the high resource cost of this, it's not something you're going to do a lot. And she can pull it when she needs it with Mr. Rook or hold on to it. Mind over Matter. It lets her either fight or evade, which, let's be honest, usually means evade because you don't want to be punching at 1. But yeah, she can use her agility or her intellect to fight or evade, and this is a fast. Lets her do it for the whole turn. So this is just good, especially when you're paired with Zoey and you don't have a lot of evade. This gives you an evade option. So if you need to exhaust a big enemy, she can do it. Finally, I'm just taking a flyer on this. This is another evade option. So this one will let you you can use your willpower to your skill value. So this will have her evading at a 5, which isn't huge, but I mean it's she can throw some icons at it to be pretty decent, and it's just another way for her to try to evade, and then she's free to do whatever she wants to do for the rest of the turn. She can, because you can't be engaged by enemies or damage enemies, so she can just float around and just do all her investigates. I see how it goes. Shortcut, obviously a really strong card. Lets you. You put in a lot of seeker decks, lets you just get a free action to move. So that's good. It's fast. She can move Zoey around. But I like to have this and Pathfinder. I just don't think I'm going to have the deck space for both. So I'm probably going to upgrade this into Pathfinder, which is just something to be careful of because it is going to up the cost curve on her deck. So I'm a little bit, because I'm not running any economy other than Astounding Revelation, and that can be hit or miss, I am a little bit concerned about the cost curve. But I am running a lot of, very, inexpensive, I'm running skill cards and inexpensive events. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. She's only running, very few assets up here. So the idea is she just gets set up. She doesn't spend a lot more time, a lot of time doing setup. She just gets set up and then she goes. Premonition. Really strong card, especially, on hard when you've got these really bad tokens that you want to have to be able to mitigate around. If you've got a critical test or you're in a vulnerable spot, this is just a great card to throw out there. You bring out the token and now you know what you're pulling next. So, Deny Existence. People other than Diana can play it. It's good. It, again, with her, her low health value, being able to not take damage is always really good. Or not, not lose cards, other kinds of things like that. It's just always a good card. And like Lucky, it allows you to undercommit to tests, right? Because you can see how bad am I going to fail it, and then you can decide if you want to mitigate it. Deduction, mainstay, it's clue acceleration. It doesn't even cost you anything like Read the Signs does. You just kind of toss it into a test. She's already at a 5, so this gets her, one more. And yeah, Deduction is just always a good card. Inquiring Mind. It's okay. It's a good card. I used to think it was better than it is. 3 icons is great, and you like to be at clue locations, but the number of times that this actually isn't available when I want it to be available, and she's already investigating really high with her intellect, and once you have Encyclopedia out, it's not like she'll need it to boost her intellect, but it's still a good card, I think. So I've got Perception, and this is just like using Overpower and Zoey. This will thin out her deck, and she doesn't necessarily need to thin out her deck that much, because once she gets Old Book of Lore and Mr. Rook out, she's going to be in pretty good shape to rip through her deck. But this still will make sure she can smash an intellect test when she needs to in the first scenario. I will plan to upgrade both of these into the Death Tarot, which just gives her a permanent intellect boost. And I found that having 2 of those plus having 2 Studious in her deck gives her a really good shot at getting in her opening hand, and then she's investigating at a 6. So sometimes when I have these opening my level 0 decks, I'm just thinking about what cards would I be willing to replace with other cards that maybe fill a similar slot. So this is just to help her make sure she's smashing intellect tests. We've got Guts. It's TCU. We're going to be taking willpower tests. And one thing is that she will be at a 4 willpower a lot once she gets the black book after the secret name. So being able to throw Guts at that, could definitely put her into good territory. Plus she can throw this at Zoey's test when Zoey's trying to test willpower. Again, it is my plan that Zoey would be my willpower tester. Stubborn Detective. He can be painful. Fortunately, since he turns off your card, but it's not a huge thing for both of these investigators. Like Zoey or Daisy wouldn't want to be taking her free action when he's engaged with her anyway, and it means that Zoey wouldn't get a resource when she's engaging him. But Zoey should be able to take him out pretty quickly. I don't think he'll be a problem, but it is something that where we have to be very careful about using Mr. Rook. That we're probably using him on the last action or after we've taken all our turn, and then Zoey's ready to step in and kill the Stubborn Detective. So kind of enemies are always like that when you have Mr. Rook, that they're going to cause you to be more cautious and have to play around having them in your deck, since you just you don't want her to pull him and then have 3 actions of, oh, what do I do? I can evade him at 2v2, but that feels really bad. So anyway, so that's where we're at with Daisy, and here's hoping that I can actually win this campaign. I don't know. I haven't done it before. And maybe this is destined for failure, but these are 2 really strong investigators. Like I said, it's my favorite pair of investigators to run. And so, maybe if with a little bit of luck, I can pull out a campaign win. Or maybe I'll just go down burning in flames, and you can enjoy the show. Either way, let's get started with The Circle Undone.